everybody, and welcome to Certified Life Coach Institute's CLCI Live. Before we begin, yes, hello.
I was just being delayed with my hello, apparently.
Before we begin, be sure to like, subscribe, comment, join in on the discussion, input your thoughts and questions, and we'll answer them. And yeah, we're done with the ethics. We're done talking
We did
about
good.
being
3 parts.
ethical.
Yes, we're never being ethical again. Is that what we're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah, we don't have to think about that ever. We're done with the ethics. Oh, I came in. Somebody has me on delay because I just heard myself again. But now we're going to be doing a more interesting topic that Brooke chose for us. It's called Being Human 101. Before we get into the specific topic, what is Being Human 101? What are we trying to do with this category?
So, I mean, I don't know if anybody read what the intention is, but I was obviously the one who set the intention here. We talk about, topics like self-sabotage and like these much bigger, more obvious, in your face topics when it comes to things that might, go wrong or come up in coaching or we might hear about. But I thought that these Being Human 101 was the intention is for it to be a little more relatable, or maybe a little more, I mean, not that the other ones aren't, but just the little things that come up often in our lives that everybody understands and everybody kind of experiences. Sort of diving into what the why these things happen, if they serve a purpose, what purpose they may serve, and outside of that, possibly, maybe they, maybe it's not so bad, or maybe it is bad. Maybe these little relatable human things add up and it becomes an issue, and how people as coaches can assist, or how it may just come up in coaching.
Or yeah, so like the little human things like just being fatigued or procrastinating or have awkward moments, or maybe having your foot in your mouth, or comparing yourself to other people. Those are like little human experiences that could be like little speed bumps in the coaching session, or they might be big speed bumps. I'm not sure. The one we are talking about today, though, I believe, is being forgetful. Why are you so forgetful? What happens when I myself, the coach, or I guess the clients, forget big or small things and have those lapses in memories, and how maybe that fits into coaching. Would you guys say you have good memories or bad memories? Not like good memories that you can remember. I mean, like, is your memory good or is your memory kind of bad?
I say both.
Yeah, it depends on the day of the week.
Okay.
I want to think I have a great memory, but I know
I have
ADHD. I don't.
Jen, you were saying something?
I have a selective. Yeah, I have a selective memory.
Yeah.
I can remember some stuff impeccably well, like really, really, really well. And then other stuff, it has no chance. And it's an ongoing fight between me and my husband of why I choose some things and don't or other things. We can't make sense of it. So
Are the things that you choose beneficial to you, and the things you forget are just like not beneficial to you? Or because I could see like a selective memory that way, just like, oh, I am just asking.
Trying to imply it, I think.
I'm just trying to get to the bottom of it.
I think there is some self-serving nature involved in the things that I remember. Yes, I would say that's accurate.
Gotcha.
I don't know that that's true for me. I think, like if I put something away in a new place, I mean, that's serving me. I'm a swear here. Cover your ears. Go la la la. I'll be damned if I can remember where those hiding places are sometimes, I'm like, and I fully expect to remember. I fully expect that I'm not going to forget where that is, or those dang passwords, all the passwords. Yeah, I fully expect to remember.
Yeah, I would say I don't really have a good long-term memory or short-term memory, or at least, and this is I'm doing like a comparison thing, which we'll say for another topic. It seems like everyone has better memories than me, which is a little upsetting. And maybe I'm trying to compare myself to how I was when I was younger. Maybe I had a better memory.
What do you mean?
It's BS though, because it's not true. Like you have a great memory for certain things.
Like what?
Like your philosophy BS, you can pull out all kinds of,
Just right.
So it's chosen like
Lord of the Rings, the names that you could just pluck out of
It's
the
like
air.
me. Anthony and I are both
blowing.
So
But yes, I can say something to you 10 times and you will forget it.
It's just not important, the things you say sometimes.
clearly.
No. I mean, like,
no, that's I'm the female version of Anthony.
No. You're not the female version of me. So I'm talking about, like, when I talk about memory that I have issues with, it's like stuff that I did like last week or earlier today, or just like words sometimes will escape my head, and like I'll spend like 15 to 20 to 30 minutes trying to just like think of a very simple word that I should be able to remember, or events from, when I was younger, like in my earlier 20s. Now, mind you, I was drinking and partying and not sleeping well in my earlier 20s, so everything's a little bit fuzzy. But like, I have noticed my memory is deteriorating, and I'm kind of hyper focused on that a little bit. And it's something that gets me. I don't know. It sort of tweaks me a little bit, that I don't remember things as good as I used to.
That way you write everything down. He like literally now he notates everything. He's got.
Well, yeah, I was gonna get into that, sort of the tools and strategies we use now to assist with our memory. But first, I don't think we got to Jerome. Did you talk about what you think your memory is, whether you've got a good memory or bad memory?
I just want to kind of piggyback off of what you said. I think it was a lot better when I was younger. And I think I'm pretty good when somebody tells me something to remember it. But if you ask me about like a personal experience I had, for whatever reason, it's getting increasingly more difficult to remember it. But if it is something that is important in a relationship, as far as like remembering that, or remembering to show up to somewheres at a certain time, that's something that I think I'm a little bit better at remembering. Maybe because it's more important to me to make sure those relationships are running smoothly, as opposed to if I watched a show last week and then the new episode comes out, I'm like, what happened last week? I don't even remember like the premise of the episode. So
thank goodness for recaps.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think we all are sharing very similar experiences with memory. Like we all have forgetful moments, every single one of us. And again, I'm notoriously good at forgetting some things, but not like where my keys are.
Your cell phone.
Yeah, where my cell phone is, where anything is. Again, ADHD. But I also can remember what I wore to any important thing I've ever been to.
That is true, and that is a weird. When I first met you, you told me that, and I found that very strange that you could remember in such sharp detail the things that.
Maybe less so now because I'm always in workout clothes, but but if it's an important thing, I can remember typically because there's so much planning for me that goes into that. It's part of my process, assembling a look or an outfit, or there's a lot of planning that happens. So then I know exactly what I wore, and I know how I feel and all of these great things. So that's something that comes up for me.
I would say that's more of the creative side of you. That creative side of you is what you tap into.
And I think that's a big part of this is when we're talking about memory, as you're sharing there, is for someone with ADHD, a lot of our memory issue is the lack of executive function, a lack of the fact that our brain chemicals are different. We're lacking serotonin and dopamine in our brains, and often those chemicals are used to sort of create these memory pathways, and we don't have them because we're not experiencing those emotions or those getting that chemical, unless in the case of like, when I'm planning for something and there's all of this anticipation I'm getting, and that is giving me that release of those happy chemicals. And so I think that is why I'm more inclined to be able to remember, and that happens whenever I'm being creative, right? Whenever I'm maybe talking to my friends, I can be very good at remembering conversations with friends and things like that, or that we've got something planned, or that we're going to do something if I'm excited about it. Fantastic.
So that kind of fits into the research today that showed that we tend to remember things that are good things, the positive things, and we forget more easily the negative things.
Which is funny because to me that's counterintuitive to negative brain bias. You know what I mean? Like, but I also do know that yes, our brain starts over time makes terrible things seem better. Like that just happens to us.
Well, not as bad. I can think of a very specific example for myself in that I hate flying. This is a recent development. I remember being, a teenager, and flying was never an issue. But as I became an adult, I started hating flying more and more. And when I had to do a 16-hour flight last year across the world, I don't really remember what it's like to be on the plane for that long. That's still 16 hours is just like a non-memory for me. I do not remember. I remember getting on the plane. I know there's something happened on the plane, and I remember getting off the plane. 16 hours is just blank. My brain just wiped it from my memory to.
Which is fantastic because we're going to be doing that again soon. So I hope you're ready.
Yeah, I know. But it seems like my brain is doing me a favor, and forgetting is like a good thing in this instance, where my brain just forgets the 16 hours I'm stuck in that aluminum funnel that's flying through the air at 300 miles an hour. But I do remember pretty well the experience afterwards, and traveling and having fun and all the fun stuff we did when I was off the plane. But being on the plane, that miserable experience, it's not here.
Yay.
I'm still not looking forward to the next time I have to get on a plane, but at
Hopefully
least I will know.
Anxiety this time.
Yeah, but at least I know I won't remember being on the plane.
I can remember the flight there, like the parts, bits of it, the flight there. Once I was awake, mind you, I was unconscious as much as possible for this.
Yeah, that's it. You're asleep most of the time. I'm wide awake.
But I remember the flight there, but the flight back, I have no memory, zero memory of the flight back, none.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't remember.
It doesn't exist. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, to link this to something that's a little more objective than our subjective experiences, the research shows that women who go into labor, they tend to forget and downplay how painful an experience it was, so that they go on to have second, third, fourth children. Even though in the moment they would rate the experience maybe pretty harrowing. Afterwards, they don't remember it as the way they described it in the moment. So those are just some more examples of the ways our brain sort of helps us by forgetting.
Something
I also would love to share. Sorry, Lisa, if you want to talk, go ahead.
Only because if we go into let me. Yeah. Something you said a little bit ago is that you have, I call them blips, the memory blips, where you can't remember a word, you can't remember something. I'm much older than you, and what I have come to do is trust that it will come to me. Meaning, I don't have to put a lot of effort into it. I don't go, God, what is that word? What is that word? What is that word? What is that word? Do that breathing, maybe get a little meditation going, or something along those lines. Relax my nervous system, if you will, and inevitably, whatever it is I'm looking for, that information comes up. I'm able to access it. So I wonder if that's something to consider as well, finding that space to calm that nervous system so that you're able to just do whatever it is you got to do, but trust that it will come.
So this is a great lead-in to the article that I wanted to sort of go over a bit, which is like the seven just common causes, or not causes, of forgetfulness. I'm sorry, it's the seven. I want to make sure I say this correctly. There we go. 7 normal memory problems. This is a Harvard Health article that I'm referencing here, and I can drop it in for others if they want to read it in more detail. And it sort of goes into exactly what you're talking about, or the 7 reasons why, memory things that happens to everybody, essentially, right? And so one of them is called transience, and this is a tendency to forget facts or events over time. It's kind of the use it or lose it type thing that happens. So like, I know I was fantastic at math in college, or in high school and in college, and I tutored. I was great, and I was, just a really good math student. And but I swear, if I had to sit down and do some of the math that I did then, I would have to go in and do some serious research to how certain things work, and because I've just not used those muscles in a long time. And then with that, there comes some anxiety, right? Like, am I capable of doing that? I knew I could then. Can I now? I'm older, and so all these things come up, which is interesting. And I think those are important things to talk about once we get into how coaches can help in this space. The other one, I'll just go through these quickly, is absent-mindedness. This is just forgetting what occurs when you don't pay close enough attention. So this is what Anthony does to me all the time. I'll speak to him, he's not paying close enough attention, and it just goes in one ear and out the other. And it's not that he isn't remembering, it's that he's not really listening to begin with.
What?
Exactly. We were flying, and I told him about 4 or 5 times that we were on this inexpensive airline. He was like, we're in the first row. And I told him like 4 times that we're going to get on the plane. And he's all, what row are we in? And I was like, oh my gosh, I've said that to you like 4 times today.
Well, you got to make sure that you say it more interestingly.
So that just lets us know we want to remember something. We have to take the moment to focus, at least to start. Like, that is an important first step. The other reason is blocking, or another is just someone asks you a question and the answer is right on the tip of your tongue. It's there, but you can't think of it. This is a very familiar example of blocking, and that's the temporary inability to retrieve a memory. The barrier, in many cases, the barrier is a memory similar to the one you are looking for, and you retrieve the wrong one. And it's this competing memory situation that's happening. So like, I will have this happen. I'll try to recall like an actor's name, and I can only think of the wrong actor's name. And it's just like, and my brain, and that's just, you have to think of it. It's like a processing issue. And if our memories are attached to pathways, for some reason, if we're going left, and we have to figure out how to let go of that left turn and go right instead. Lisa, yeah.
I think that's what we were talking about a few minutes ago. And then I also think I have combined things like you're talking about, and will remember something. I'll have the beginning of the memory, and somehow another memory will get infused with that one that I'm trying to retrieve. And then all of a sudden I go, wait, that's not right. And it's like, am I lying, or what am I doing with this? Anyway, go ahead.
And so it will say, and scientists think that, it's more, the memory blocks become more common with age. And I like to think there's no research behind this, but that's because we have so much more to remember, right? So, we've got a lot of more opportunities to go right, left, up, or down. And so, and about half of blocked memories will be retrieved within a minute of not being able to remember them, is what they said. That's what research shows. Number 4 is misattribution, which occurs when you remember something accurately in part, but you misattribute some detail like the time, the place, or the person involved. Another kind of misattribution occurs when you believe a thought that you had was totally original when in fact it came from something you've previously heard or forgotten about. That is also an example of misattribution. Very common thing that happens to us.
Couldn't be me. I only have original thoughts.
And it could be because there's lots of reasons. It can be happening because you've got a lot going on, because of stress, because of distraction, because you're trying to acquire a whole bunch of information and we're only able to access a smaller part of it. And then later we find clarity or somebody reminds us or something like that. Suggestibility is the vulnerability of your memory to the power of suggestion. Information that you learn about and as an occurrence after the fact can become incorporated into your memory as part of the incident, even though you don't experience these details. So they see this a lot in court cases with witnesses and things like that, where witnesses can suddenly start to have memories of things that they have heard but maybe did not in fact witness. And so there's a lot of issues that comes up with testimony and things like that, because we are far more able to be influenced by our suggestions, etc. I think something we don't think about that also influences our memory is music. For me, at least personally, like if I am listening, remembering something with happy music versus sad music or something, it can affect the memory itself. So like I am very conscious and aware of when I'm listening to music and how that music may be affecting a memory or a feeling about a memory, because music can very much cause us to bring emotion into things that maybe we didn't previously experience. So number 6 is bias. Even the sharpest memory isn't flawless or a snapshot of reality. So in your memory, your perceptions are filtered through your personal biases. So just always keep in mind that your experience is going to be a biased and personal experience. And so therefore your memory is not objective. It's just not. And last but not least, persistence. Most people worry about forgetting things, but in some cases, people are tormented by memories they wish they could forget but can't. The persistence of memories of traumatic events and negative feelings and ongoing fears. Some of these memories accurately reflect horrifying events, while others may be negative distortions of reality. So essentially, a lot of when it comes to trauma and PTSD, you can relive these events over and over, and it's this traumatic memory. And sometimes when you try to remember less of them, it causes you to remember them more. And there are very specific ways, therapy, to process those memories and emotions, and so that you can start to have less emotion around the experience, because the more emotional we are with our memory, the more likely we are to have that memory, right? I don't remember where my keys are because I have no emotion attached to where I put my keys whatsoever.
Well, maybe you should.
That's it. We just solved the case for me. There has to be emotion attached to it for me to remember it. And if there's not, I'm not going to remember it.
If I'm not remembering like where my keys or whatever, it's because I'm distracted. If I'm so distracted and I'm not paying attention to I'm not in the present, really. Eckhart Tolle says be in the present. I totally caught up in whatever drama's going on.
Yep. So how does all of this show up in our coaching sessions with clients? How does issues with memory?
We cancel our appointment. I'm just kidding.
That's true. Yeah.
Or they forget. They're like, I forgot we're scheduled for today. But how does it show up inside of the session? Like when you're coaching with someone, this memory.
I mean, I think It's just like a little more subtle, but it is, I think, one of the reasons we attach emotional relevance to goals and to what we're working on. And we ask questions like, how will you feel when you do that? How is that going to? Because I think in that moment, what we're doing is attaching this emotion to what they're working on so that they're capable of remembering that it is important, that when all of the stress of day to day and all of the reasons and things that have allowed them to put their goal aside or whatever it is they are working on aside comes up, they have that emotion of what they want to feel, what they are going to feel, how they do feel when they're working on, that emotional attachment to whatever that memory of what they're working on is important so that they do the work essentially. Like, I think that is very important because it becomes easy for us to forget if we don't attach that importance and that emotional importance to it. Am I wrong? Yeah.
Could totally. I think that when you can get as many senses involved in that process, that's going to be beneficial. I'm thinking of another example with couples. One person will come in with the memory because they want to share this experience. They'll share their experience, and the other person says, "No, that's not what you're lying." And then they'll share their experience. And the interesting thing is, each person has their own experience of a situation, and they pick out different things that contribute to the memory that cause them angst, if you will, in that experience, and they negate what the other person went through or remembers as not part of that memory. So that's kind of interesting as well.
How does that get resolved then?
Different ways. It's sometimes it ends up being an agree to disagree. Sometimes we have to talk through it, what the importance is of that memory for them, how they want to address boundaries, usually around boundaries, what that's going to look like. And then it goes back into what Brooke said, talk around it as far as what's the connection, what's the emotional relevance of it, what's the motivating factor that's going to allow them to adjust whatever it is that they're wanting to adjust.
Jen, I think you want to talk.
God, I was muted here.
Can
you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
The big one that comes to mind for me, at least with my clients, is their story of who they are or who they believe they are. Many times in the beginning, they're framing their story from this happened to me, and sometimes it is accurate, but many times it's not. I'm a victim of this, or I made, poor choices, and they're basically framing it in a way where it's very centered around negative type language and judgment of it. And a lot of times I will simply hear it in a way that is completely different. I'll hear it in a way like, wow, that sounds like someone who, and I will offer that as I'm hearing you're saying this and I'm hearing you call it this. I'm hearing it as this, and I'm just curious what that sounds like to you. I have no attachment. I could be completely wrong. But when it lands and they are just like, I just shattered a whole view that they had been carrying with them that was not serving them, that was holding them back, that's where the magic happens, because now they get to
ethical. Yeah.
they get to reframe their entire way of being. And that's really what comes to mind for me is their memory. The word schema, I think, right, was in the research. It's like they have this schema of their life, and it's a very specific one. And it's not to say that it's wrong, but it's also potentially involving blind spots or not painting the full picture or involving the whole truth or being fully accurate. And so a coach's thought partnership can make a really big impact for someone who's caught in, a thinking pattern of themselves, an identity pattern that is keeping them stuck, essentially. So that's what comes up for me when thinking about the memory stuff.
I was actually going to go there, so I'm glad you did. So for sure, I think that a lot of what we're doing with our clients is working in spaces of their, the stories they tell themselves, kind of, you know what I mean, or they're not doing something because of X, Y, and Z, but they're not getting the whole picture. So, questions like, what about that is true? What is, what are you in control of? What things of that nature really start to let them remember their memories in other ways that allows them to move forward and move past blocks. I think also a less, deep and more, simple way that it can come up in coaching is people can just be like, I forgot to do that. I forgot I was going to I forgot I said I would do that by Thursday, and I didn't. And shoot.
That's probably the one that comes up most common. At least
How
the
do we-
sessions I've had.
How do we handle that as coaches, though? What do we do when we have a client that, goes, I forgot?
How can you remember? What can you do to remember next time?
You probably want to first check into it if it's something they still want to do, and then lead into, what are those steps?
Yeah. So then asking, oh, well, would you like to, if I'm going to assume that they're going to work on this for the session contract, like if they're working on it for the session contract, then I could ask them, well, how are you going to remember it? I would probably even preempt this. I've done this before. And when I'm closing out my coaching sessions, I'll ask them, okay, how are you going to remember to do this? You say that you're going to be doing X, Y, and Z from now until next week. How are you going to remember to do this? I feel like it's a perfectly appropriate question to ask at, towards the end of a coaching session when there's a plan.
I think you take it one step forward and like, how are you going to hold yourself accountable to remembering that? And that's where there's the with setting the session contract and completing the session contract. I think it's is it competency 8? Is that competency 8 or is it 7? I think it's 8, where the accountability piece starts to come in to coaching and being coaches, right? That's why we have to ask questions about accountability and assist them in creating a plan of accountability for themselves to hold themselves accountable, so, how are you going to, like, for me, okay, I'm putting it in my calendar. I am setting an alarm, and I'm going to tell 2 people, get off the call, I'm going to tell 2 people in my life that it's going to happen, and maybe ask one of them to remind me or something along, or, help hold me accountable. Those are the kind of things that we start to build out. And I think it's for coaches earlier on, something we kind of forget to do or don't know how to do, because sometimes our clients will look to us for that accountability piece, or we are
remember for me.
Our people-pleasing coaches will want to help be that accountability partner, and we are not that. And it does feel, for me, it feels like I've had times where I'm like, I kind of hate that. Are you really sure that you're, because I feel like for me, it feels like a mom moment. I feel like I'm nagging a bit, and I don't love it. So it's something I've had to, maybe it might be something I need to be coached on, y'all. Because I have to get, that's my bias coming in, right? It's part of it. It's part of coaching. Okay, why don't I like momming people?
Or why
you're
do
not a
you
mom? I don't
call
know.
it momming people? Why is it that to
Oh,
you?
I don't
yeah.
know, because my mom was not a naggy mom type, really. She was just sort of not present or mad. So I don't know, but something in me
Let's
maybe
do that with our clients. Let's just, when we're annoyed at them, let's just ignore them and be mad at them.
I think what you're trying to say is letting them be accountable to their life and not having you be the accountable person in their life. You're muted.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But I also, as a coach, don't love that we are required to ask about accountability, and we kind of have to ask it more than once. Like at least in PCC, part of the PCC process that I didn't like, it has been a sticking point for me a little bit, not a lot. I mean, I can do it. I just doesn't feel natural for me to do. Is to ask into the accountability and then really confirm the accountability. Like, we have to ask twice. I think it's required that we talk into accountability twice when we get to PCC. And that for me, the second one, first time, sure, but the second one I didn't love, right? I feel like I'm doubting my client a little bit. I feel like I'm, and maybe that's because I don't like when people do it to me. Like I'm like, and maybe that's where that's coming from. So again, maybe it's something I need to coach on, so I cannot have a problem with it. But that was just something in this space of being forgetful and everything. It is something that they have absolutely built in to the competencies to help assist with that I forgot moment. To bring it back to the coaching space.
So it's essentially just asking your client, how are you going to hold yourself accountable to this goal that you've set? Which is another way of saying, how are you going to remember to do this?
I can just do it. Just do it.
Don't even remember. Do it right now.
And I've had clients say that to me. Well, just do it. And I'm like, well, you haven't. Okay, up to this point, you haven't been able to just do it. So
what will be different this time?
How are you? Yeah, what will be different this time? How are you going to make sure you just do it this time when it hasn't worked?
Because I said I'll do it, and when I say I'll do something, then I'll do it, and then when we meet with them next week, I didn't do it. I forgot. What do you do when someone is just like, let's say they're very ignorant on the inner machinations of memory, and they're like, well, I get 3 hours of sleep every night, and I drink, I have 3 drinks of alcohol, 3 servings of alcohol before bed, and I don't sleep, and I'm always stressed out. How come I'm not remembering things good? When us educated folk know that getting good sleep and not drinking a whole lot and being a little less stressed out is good for memory. Are we just allowed to share that as coaches?
No, we're not.
Out of
Even
scope.
a lot of coaches will want to.
I mean, I certainly would be like, have you thought about getting more sleep? Would that make you feel better? Have you tried that?
No.
Well, I mean,
I know it's not coaching, but it's like, oh my gosh, like the nail is right.
If your client is being forgetful all the time, and it's happening over and over, there probably will come a point where the client is like, I'd like to know why, I don't want to be so forgetful. How am I not going to forget? What do I have to do not to forget? And then, that's when we'll get into those spaces and we'll go, okay, well, how can you help yourself to be less forgetful? And that's the moment when they can start to uncover those issues themselves without us prescribing the solution to them.
Could I prescribe them to see their primary physician to have this discussion with them?
Well, I can, if let's say it is a thing where they're starting to feel like it is a chronic memory issue and it might be something bigger at that point, then yes, as a coach, I say, well, this might be a space where you need to speak to a medical professional.
Yeah, I would straight up ask, do you feel like you need more support than I can give you on this? Most likely it's going to be
and then their doctor can tell them to get more sleep and drink less alcohol.
Yes, but that is, I mean, honestly, that is, and Jen's doing it in a very soft way. Do you feel like, but if they're in this space still, it might be a moment where I go, okay, I at this point, I don't feel like I can fully serve you as a coach, and you should see a medical professional. and go, to talk to somebody, a doctor, at some point. I mean, whoever that medical professional is, I'm not going to tell them who, but I cannot. There's only so much I can do.
I'm sensing there's another professional that could serve you better than me.
Oh, wow.
It's like
slowly
the most
speaking
gentle
coaches.
way of saying
It's very gentle. I might be more blunt in that moment than maybe Jen. And it's not. I think it's fair. If that's coming up, it's the same as referring for the other things. It's this being human moment, right? It's not as dire as PTSD or chronic anxiety or depression, but it's the same situation where we can refer in the same way we would refer to a professional in those situations. It's just a more common and relatable kind of situation, especially apparently as we get older. So
if you're coaching really old people, maybe give them some slack.
Give them a little slack. I wanted to talk for a moment about, we're talking about all this memory, but it does help us to be forgetful.
Yeah.
So
you can focus on the things that are more important to you rather than minutia that it's not really good for anything.
I am happy that I forget some of the horrific things that come through my internet feed that I didn't want to see.
Yes. I was gonna kind of mention that I actually I'm not even on Twitter anymore because there's certain things that just does not belong in my brain. And still, you see certain things on the internet, like Jen said, and it helps to step away and do something else and forget.
Where are you seeing these things, and what things are these?
Okay.
You said Twitter, but
I'll tell you, mine are like animal related.
Animal related. Yep. Animal related. Yep. 100%.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
Jen, you hear it here, folks. Jen does not like animals or cat videos.
Not if it's preventable.
Animal harm.
Yeah, animal harm.
God, that would be awful.
Animal happy, good.
Animal
you
remember
harm,
those?
bad.
Okay.
Animal harm, child harm, anything that comes up with that, I'm like, anybody who anything or buddy that needs to be protected that isn't being protected and is not capable of fully protecting themselves, I get so mad.
And then there's sometimes too, just like, you'll get a trigger warning, thank God. And as soon as I get that, I'm like, nope, thank you for that. I'm out. Like if it has a trigger warning, I can't stay.
Although there are some of the fun, jokey ones that, like with the cats, where they're like trigger warning. And
I
it's
haven't
like,
seen that.
Trigger warning: tiger mauls a man's face off.
And it's like a cute cat, like a tiny kitten going.
I haven't seen that.
I've seen that.
Which is kind of antithetical to the whole trigger warning thing, because then you've got people who are either missing out on the cuteness, or they're like, okay, we'll stick around and see it, and then it's actually a guy's face getting ripped off.
Okay, yeah, no, I know about that.
Yeah,
I think though that yes, I am grateful for those things, being able to forget those things.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sorry, go ahead, Brooke.
I think also I'm grateful for being able to forget all of the awkward social moments I have had in my life.
I remember those. I remember yours.
Yeah, there's so many that I have forgotten more than I remember. There might be some that still stick out, but I've forgotten several.
No, there's a few that I remember, and I just, they come at me, and then I have a moment where I'm just like sitting quietly. I'm like, and then I forget it in the moment, but it's like stuck in the long-term memory.
A friend of mine from high school and I recently realized that we have both blocked the same memory of something. We were in like some sort of talent show in high school, and we basically just got on stage and acted like idiots. And we both have blocked the memory of it because it was that embarrassing. It was like the whole class just laughing at us, and neither of us can remember it. We just know it happened. Thank you. Thank you, brain, for protecting me on that one.
people will tell me some crazy things that I did when I was younger, and I'd be like, I don't remember doing that, but that sounds like something I'll do, so I'll own it. But I don't remember it. Yeah, so I guess memory helps us, or our forgetting helps us protect our mental sanity in some regards. There's a short story by Jorge Luis Borges. I forgot the name of the story. Forgetting.
Funny.
It has to do with memory, though, and it has to do with a guy who cannot forget anything. And he is essentially cursed with remembering every single minute detail of every moment in his life. And he's completely incapable of doing anything. His life is a living hell because he remembers everything. And there are people like that. There are people
I was gonna
who are
say,
alive who are like that.
isn't there a true story? Not
Yeah, there are people who are like that who they just remember everything at every moment, and it kind of incapacitates them.
So, yeah, which would be awful. We wouldn't want
Yeah.
that. We wouldn't. It would be a lot. We're moving into the end of our time here, and I think we should leave everybody with that Maya Angelou quote as well. So as we move into our final thoughts, I'll let you guys kind of choose whatever final thought you want. I'm going to let mine be. I recently had somebody give me this great tip / idea, and I'm going to try it out on my next 2 trips. And our memories are deeply tied to our senses and our scent memory. So our scent, scent memory is a very strong one. So the very specific smells can help us to remember very specific moments in our lives, and that is true across the board for anybody who has the ability to smell. Like that is just how we work. Music as well. So like music can also take us back to very specific moments in our lives, certain songs, certain things like that. So I was given a tip for any time like you were going maybe on a trip, or let's say you're getting married, or something like that, to buy a brand new scent or perfume, one you've never used before, one that is unique, and use it for that trip or that day, and use it consistently, so that you are smelling it and it's coming up, and it attaches itself to that moment. And you could do the same with a song, right? You could pick a theme song for your trip or your day, and then play it several times, maybe play it leading up to it, and then later on, whenever you want to, let's say, reminisce or go back to that moment in time, you use the same scent or listen to that song. And it's a really, I think, neat and unique way, or I think it's a deliberate way and mindful way to sort of go, okay, I want to remember this moment and I want it to be important. So I'm going to support that by including these scents and attaching them to that specific memory.
I think that's just a ploy from Big Candle, Big Music, to get you to buy more songs and candles.
I think it's a great idea because there are very specific things that will take me back to very specific moments. So I'm going to try it out and see how it
goes. Everybody else, final thoughts, final things you've learned?
I just want to piggyback off what Brooke said. I literally found a song that I used to love when I was 19. I had not heard this song since I was 19. When I heard this song, it was like I time traveled. I was a different person. I was freaking out listening to this song. And it was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe that music can do that. It's just very cool. Anyways.
The Sublime album, it was the first thing I listened to in my car while driving around in my car for the first time. When I was 16, my friend Carly was in the driver's seat. We put on the Sublime album, we rolled the windows down, we rocked out, and every time it's like I cannot not remember that. Yep. Like it's like I'm there. Like I'm 16 again.
Yes, I have that. Unfortunately, my first CD in my first ever car was the Cisco album. So Unleash the Dragon is imprinted in my brain in a Pontiac Sunfire.
okay. Like my first cassette tape that I like put in and listened to that I ever got was it was like Snow. You know, damn, a big boom boom bam. That like
Informer.
that.
Yeah.
Like forever. Yeah.
All right, Brooke and Jen are going down
All
memory
right.
lane. Jerome, Lisa,
We've
do
gone
you have
down a rabbit hole.
They've
final
got me.
thoughts?
They've got me thinking
No,
about.
I'm doing the same thing now. So
Yeah.
I don't have anything fresh. I've got we played some music, some what I, kind of grew up with. And it just, that does bring back that joy and joyful journey and expression. So I'm right there with you.
I'll switch it up a little bit because I'm going to do the same thing by going down memory lane. Every time I pass a school, specifically, for whatever reason, whenever the grass kind of, the aroma of the grass hits my nose as my windows are down, it takes me back to my adolescence. And I don't know why specifically schools. It has to be a school, because if I go hiking or I walk around my neighborhood, for whatever reason, it doesn't hit the same senses. Maybe it's just how they cut the grass or what chemicals they put in it at the schools themselves. But specifically when I drive past the school, it relaxes me. It brings me back to my adolescence, and it's just a really cool experience.
So if Jerome is driving back
I
and
have a
forth
grass
in front
one
of a
too.
school, don't call the police. He's just reminiscing.
No,
Sniffing out the air.
I think if I do that too much, it'll ruin the actual memory. So no, I do it once, drive by, and enjoy it.
Something I've learned from this live is that people will forget what you've said, and people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And
Thank
I
you,
learned that from
Maya.
I learned that from Maya Angelou. I wasn't.
I
gonna
loved her.
take
I
credit
loved
A
her.
great
for
quote.
that.
It's such a good quote.
She was an amazing woman. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. We'll see you guys next week with something else about being human.
Hey.
And we'll
Like
have
a
just as
It'll
much
either,
fun.
yeah, I think next week will either be awkward moments, possibly being tired, but I think we're gonna go with awkward. Probably we'll switch up the tired one. I'm already tired just thinking about it.
Yeah, it'll be a very lackadaisical.
However, something I experience,
Live.
I know what it's like to just kind of always feel a little tired. Okie dokie. So I think next week we'll be talking about awkward moments.
Gotcha. And in the meantime, if you want to remember how to be a better coach, take our classes. I don't think you learn how to be a better coach, and then you will remember how to be a better coach. Take our coaching 101 and 102 classes. Okay, we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.
See ya.